Okay, here we go. And we're on. So, for anyone watching the recording, we were having some tech difficulties, as happens, and I'm not able to connect the live into the Eatful Eating group. So I will be posting this later on. So I've been looking really forward to this. I will introduce you to my friend Sarah here. Sarah and I met a little while back via some business networking, and we just connected quick and fast. She's a lovely human being, and I have been really excited and fascinated by the work that she does. So, Sarah, I'm going to let you just kind of give a brief introduction of yourself and what we're talking about today to start.
Okay, just briefly, my name is Sarah Cuoco. I live in Western Colorado, for those of you who don't know me. Shelly and I have this great connection because what we do is so symbiotic, I guess you could say. Really
Absolutely.
well way to put it. But I am involved with a company that provides a customized supplement based on a person's individual health genetics. And I'll explain that more in detail, but what we do is we're looking for variants on genes that affect our health in 10 specific areas. And then we are able to custom compound that with raw nutritional ingredients.
Yeah. This is so exciting for me. I want to touch quickly on the symbiotic piece that you mentioned, because I think that the work that both of us do is so symbiotic, because both of us are really focused on foundational health, like the basic foundations of our health and supporting that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, where do I start? I have so many different areas I want to go to with you. Why don't I'll start by just kind of giving a couple of main points of why what you offer is so exciting. And I'm going to kind of let you run with it. And I'm curious about your story too, and your beginnings with this. But as someone who has always been interested in health and has always taken a lot of supplements, I love supplement, and what you offer is supplements that are catered directly to people's specific DNA. And as someone who spends a lot of money on supplements every month, and I feel like I am just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall sometimes, like it's intuitive. Some things I know my body needs. Sometimes, my blood test results might give me an indication of what my body needs in supplements. But I think it's just amazing to have that catered specifically for your DNA. And the other piece to this that is just so exciting for me is I feel like we're now living in the future of healthcare and being able to support our well-being in ways that we just have not been able to previously, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you want to start, Sarah? Do you want to start with a little bit about your story and how you got involved with this?
Sure, I could do that. I have a sister who's a nurse, and I do want to say very out of the gate, because this comes up a lot in conversations with people who are really interested in supporting health naturally. There's a lot of like anti-medicine out there. And so I want to say out of the gate, I'm not anti-medicine. I'm pro personal accountability.
Oh, I like that.
By that, of course, I mean that, we've become a society of people who are so willing to say, well, I'll just let medicine fix it. I'll just take the drugs, I'll do the whatever, I'll do the tests, and whatever the doctor says is apparently what I need. And that can be true in some situations, but when it comes to our basic health, our general health, our being able to age healthy, we need to be accountable for that. And we can be. That's the whole thing, is this is not something we need somebody else to say, to prescribe something for us, because, and this is the basis of what I do, we're all individuals. We all respond to things differently. And that includes nutrition. It's not just drugs. Anytime you see a drug, you'll see the list of may cause blah, 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 and they give all the things. And that's because those are things that came up in the trials and in the clinical studies. But it's because we're all unique. So somebody can take a medicine and be fine. Another person like me, I can take it. I tend to respond like the opposite. And so it's not going to work the same for me. And it's the same thing with nutrition. We all need, because we are human bodies, we all need similar, we all need the basic nutrients to make our bodies function. But we also have genes that maybe aren't working like they're supposed to. So vitamin D, let's just say that, vitamin D processing. Some people process vitamin D with no issues whatsoever. They don't ever have to take supplements. For them to take a vitamin D supplement is a waste of money.
Right.
But how do they know that?
Yeah.
And then there's people who don't process. You know, we can be in the sun all day long, but our body is not processing to make the vitamin D that we need. And so we do need to supplement, but you don't know that if you don't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that you used, sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I love that you use that as an example, because as someone who lived in the Pacific Northwest for most of the last 20 years, vitamin D is like this blanket suggestion for everyone who lives in the rainforest where we don't get much sun a lot of the year, right? Like everyone should just be taking a lot of extra vitamin D at least 9 months out of the year. That's a very blanketed suggestion. Yeah. So I love that you use that example. It's a good one for me.
It's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe need it.
Yeah.
So how I got started, this all started 5 years ago. My sister, who is also a nurse, our dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so we try to be healthy. We try to do a lot of things. We know we have cancer in our family. We have diabetes in our family. We have heart disease in our family. We knew the dementia part. We didn't know how close to home it was going to hit and how severe. And so when that happened, it's like, okay, now what do we do? Now what?
Yeah.
And so she was actually introduced to the field of nutrigenomics, which is what this is. It's taking the nutritional research and information and marrying it with genetic information, genetic research. So she kind of found this, and she joined with a company who was just starting out as far as being able to make this readily available to the public. And with that in mind, we were looking for something to say, do we have this issue and how do we prevent it? And what happened after that, though, is why I've stayed with it. So I know through the testing that where my main genetic health variants are. We don't test for diseases. We're just looking for our body's or actionable genes, which means genes that we can affect with our environment and our nutrition. So that's epigenetics, another big word, which that incorporates everything. That incorporates our nutrition, our exercise, our water, our sleep, toxicity in the environment around us. It's everything. Genes can be affected by that. Our DNA can be affected by that, and how they function. And if you have some that if your basic wiring has little glitches kind of made into it, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so what do we need to do to get these genes functioning optimally, right? And so we look at nutrition, but we also look at lifestyle information. So what happened was within the first week or so, and this sounds crazy because I'm kind of skeptical. And just to be totally clear here, I was not a supplement taker. I was somebody said, "Oh, you should take this." It's like, really? And I take some for a little while and be like, I didn't do anything. Because, we live in this society, this day and age of instant gratification, which I now know better. But so I was not a supplement person. But through this testing, and I discovered where my genetic variants are, and I started taking my custom supplement, and literally I'm sleeping better. My digestion is better. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. All right. I'm good with that. And as the weeks went on, like even within the first month, I started noticing something else that is very significant. So I have what's known as abdominal adhesions. And this is where your body, like we all make scar tissue, it's part of our healing process. But some of us, that little flip switch, when it gets flipped, it doesn't turn off. So it keeps making scar tissue, even when there's no need for scar tissue. And what that does
Mm-hmm.
is internally, it starts adhering all of your organs to each other. So I
Mm.
was having a great deal of pain, and I loved hiking and everything, and I lived in the Black Hills, and I was getting to where, I take my dogs out for a hike in the morning, just like a mile or so each, and then in the evening, and I would get to where coming home, a lot of times I had to just stop and kneel down because I was having so much pain in my abdomen and my lower back and my hips and stuff. And I'm like, what is this? Because I didn't know what
Yeah.
it was then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I had a surgery earlier, a partial hysterectomy, which was a total botched thing and actually created a lot more scar tissue because that happens when you have surgery. You
Yeah.
have a wound,
Yeah.
creating scar tissue, doesn't
Yeah.
stop. So
Wow.
anyway, so as this was going on, I'm like, I'm starting to put the pieces together in my mind because we do know our bodies better than anybody.
Yep,
And I'm thinking
absolutely.
there's a connection here. So I started going to my OBGYN and saying, hey, I want to have a hysterectomy. She's like, well, you've never been pregnant. It's like, I'm 48 years old. It's not happening. And I've come to terms
Yeah.
with that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but then I was seeing the PA girl and she goes, well, it's musculoskeletal. And she's having me do all these things. I'm like, okay, you could be right. I don't think so, but I'll jump through the hoops. 9 months into it, I'm like, I'm done. I know what the problem is. If we can do it. And I wanted the hysterectomy for two reasons. One, I knew I wasn't going to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I also knew that there was a chance that cutting out my uterus and tubes would alleviate some of the scar tissue.
Right.
And I was right. I finally convinced them to let me do this, and because that was the only way the insurance would pay for it if it was a
Right.
hysterectomy. And so we
Right.
did. And I instantly was pain-free for over 4 years. It was amazing. It was,
Wow.
oh.
Wow. Yeah.
but of course it was growing back because that's what this
Yep.
situation does. And so I was starting to feel pain again. I moved home because of my dad's health, and I met Chris, who I'm married to now. And at the same time, I was feeling a lot more pain coming back. And so I was looking at potential surgery again, even though I hate surgery because I don't detox well. So that means anesthesia and we don't get along very well. Within a couple of months, at the most, I started to notice that pain was decreasing. And of course, being the skeptic, I'm like, it's got to be just a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got. And it just kept getting better. And it got better every month. It just kept getting better. And I'm like, well, this is really flipping cool because nobody likes to be in pain.
Right. Right.
And so by the end of the year, I was probably 90% pain free. And then I did something that proved to me that this was what was helping, getting my body the nutrition it needed. I went off my personal supplement for 90 days. I agreed to be in a beta tester for a weight management program,
Mm-hmm.
which was also DNA based. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll do that. Before the 2 month before, I think I would say probably 6 weeks into it, I was starting to feel those pains coming back. And there was other things going on, but the pain, I'm like, oh, no. And so I stuck with it for the 90 days. And as soon as I could, I went right back onto my custom supplement. It took about 6 months for me to get back to where I was when I stopped. But then within the end of the year, again, I was about another 6 months into it. I was finally pain free, and I don't have pain from that anymore. Is it gone? No, it's something that's just in my body. It's
Yeah.
something I deal with, but getting the nutrition that I need that's addressing where my genetic issues are has helped. Like our CEO says, you put my symptoms to sleep. And for me,
Right.
that's just huge.
Right. Right. That's amazing. That's such an amazing testament to what your body specifically needs and how supportive it is.
and what it does. I mean, when you're getting what you really need, your
Yeah.
body is better able to function like it's supposed to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Sometimes
And
I
I
still
bet,
choke up thinking about it. It's just like, I didn't today, but there are times when I talk to people, it's just like,
yeah, yeah. Well, chronic pain is one of the most draining things
wow. Mm-hmm.
that we can experience in our lives. Anyone that's experienced chronic pain, even for, one period of time in their life, can relate to that. Yeah.
Especially when it was preventing me from doing what I love to do most. Walking and hiking have always been my go-to exercise.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
love. I love being out in the woods. I love being out, in nature. And it's like the fact that I wasn't able to do a mile without being in pain was
Yeah,
just, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. It's devastating.
Now I'm
Yeah.
just older, so I have other things causing aches. But not like that. It's
As
nothing like,
happens. Right,
yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
It
yeah,
happens. We get
yeah.
creaky a little bit as time goes
Right, right.
on. So what does where do people begin if they're interested? Or what does it look like
So
for someone who's interested in this?
okay. For basic, here's the process in a nutshell. You order your test kit and you get a test kit. It's literally, it comes in I have one, but I'm not sure I can get to it without tripping over something. It comes in a silver, just a pouch. It's got your two
Mm-hmm.
test vials, two swabs. It's got the pre-addressed self-addressed envelope. So you get that, and all it has on it is a little barcode. Everything on it's barcoded. The envelope's barcoded. Each of the vials is barcoded, and the return envelope's barcoded. The reason is because we contract with a lab that does our genetic testing. We do not do genetic testing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we contract with a lab. They are HIPAA compliant, so you do have to sign a waiver giving permission to have the test done. We
Mm-hmm.
are also HIPAA compliant. We follow that. It attaches to us.
Yeah. For anyone that
It,
doesn't know what HIPAA is, it protects your privacy to the utmost degree for any kind of medical results, right?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. We don't share. We don't sell. As a
Hmm.
matter of fact, so the lab gets your envelope and it's barcoded, they never have your name or anything. They have a barcode. That's it.
Right, right.
And so they pull the report, which we are currently pulling close to 100 genetic variants specifically rated to health. That includes muscle and skin. I mean, literally everything.
Hmm.
Once they pull that report and they validate that it's all correct, they send those results to us with the barcode, and we're the only ones that can match those up with you.
Okay.
Then your results are destroyed. Your genetic samples, your swabs are destroyed. Once we have that, we have a very unique software program we've actually developed. It's been actually in development since the Human Genome project. So it's been going on for about 30 years. So of course it keeps growing. The
Hmm.
more information that's extrapolated from the Human Genome Project and that can be used, the more information we all have in the world.
Hmm.
So our program is based on that information, genetic information, as well as nutritional information. So, and what I mean by that, we look at studies that are being done or have been done, peer reviewed. So we know that they have to be at least twice peer reviewed for them to be utilized for us. So we can bring all that information together, and that's how we customize a formula unique to each individual.
Right.
So then you have the option of purchasing that supplement, and it comes, we literally, this is so here, more of the process. Raw ingredients, we purchase raw ingredients and we source them from the best places we can. They all have to have a certificate of analysis proving that they are what they say they are. We then have them third-party tested. Once they've passed that, we bring them in, we make our blends, because we have a blend for each of the genetic SNPs. We have those then third-party tested to verify that what we say is in that. And then we bring them back in and we can use them. We have a medical grade facility that has a very special machine that does all this wonderful, it
Hmm.
literally dumps all the ingredients into your jar in like under 20 seconds. It's crazy. So they're all raws and they come in that way. They are compounded that way. You have the choice of leaving it as a powder to use in smoothies or whatever, or you can have it in capsules. We use gel caps. And
Okay. Yeah.
then it's delivered literally to your door once a month.
And so this is, I feel like I maybe jumped the gun earlier a little bit in what I was saying, but this is the part that just is so thrilling to me as someone who has spent a enormous amount of money on supplements over the years. To have a supplement delivered to my door that is specifically made for my genetic makeup, exactly what my body needs. There's no guessing. There's no, oh, I wonder if this supplement will help me. Oh, I think this helps another friend of mine. I'm gonna try this one. Like I just think it's brilliant. And like I said, it's like the future of healthcare for us, like this
It
up
is.
until fairly recent history, something like this was never available to us before.
No.
Yeah.
And that's, well, and the thing is once the Human Genome Project started spitting out information, they were able to extrapolate information. Very wealthy people could afford to do something. It wasn't this, but they would
Right.
have like
Right.
a single gene tested, which was
Right.
quite expensive. It was very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And then they would be supplemented on that. And MTHFR is like probably the most widely tested, which we actually test 2 variants on that,
Mm-hmm.
because that's our methylation, basically how our cells function and process our energy. Like, is our
Right.
engine, is the cellular engine working?
Right.
That's what that's
Right.
about.
Right.
But it was also expensive because you had to go to a specialist.
Yep.
You had to pay very highly for the gene test. And then they were compounding or just recommending so much of this, that, or the other for
Right.
that.
Right.
This makes it way more affordable and accessible to pretty much everyone.
Yeah. And
Especially, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been impressed with, and I know you had some shares. You had a screen share you could do maybe on this as well. But I'm
Yes.
so impressed with so Sarah shared with me her supplement, her personalized supplement, and reading through it, it literally covers all of the bases that I would cover when I'm thinking about my supplements. Everything from, the vitamins, minerals, probiotics, mushroom supplements, adaptogens, all of the things that I would normally be purchasing separately for myself are in there. So like not only is it affordable, but I mean, honestly, it would be like the monthly supplements custom tailored to me would be probably half of what I'd like to be spending on supplement or what I would be spending on supplements, purchasing all of those things separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
If you,
really quickly, because I know that Isaac doesn't know who you are, your background. Can you give
uh-huh.
just a real quick, basically introduction of you? What is your background in the field of nutrition?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Hey, Isaac. So I'm a well-being coach and I'm a transformational life coach, but also an integrative nutrition health coach. So my core work is working with women and diet and lifestyle habits and learning to eat healthy, relationship with food, relationship with body, those kinds of things. So the work I do is very much foundational as well. I'm not into like one of my core philosophies has always been like an anti-cookie cutter approach because we're all so different. And so much in the world of nutrition and wellness is these cookie cutter programs prescribing people to eat a certain way, very prescriptive, and we're also different. So a lot of my work leans into, helping women really learn to listen to their bodies and, do what feels good for them by their body's guidance. Like, when we're listening, we can get a lot of information. So that's probably like a really great connection as to why when I met Sarah, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes some things a lot easier, right? Yeah, we don't have to listen so hard as far as, oh, is this supplement helping me? Is this the right combination of nutrition for me? So
Right.
that's a little quick snippet.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Good to meet you.
You bet.
So it's really interesting too. Oh, sorry, Isaac.
Oh, you're good. I was just saying thank you.
Okay, thanks. So
I
it's
do have
really
some questions for later.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. The other thing, we have a lot of medical providers, health providers, practitioners, chiropractors, I mean, DOs, you name it, NDs, MDs, who utilize our service and our product. And a big part of the comments that we get back is how this makes their job easier, because it does eliminate so much guesswork. Even people who are really into genetic information and doing their own genetic mapping, we had one of them tell our CEO, he says, I don't need to do this. You guys did it for me. So
Right.
it makes their job easier, and it cuts the time of when somebody is dealing with health issues, instead of like, okay, well, let's see if it's this, let's see if it's this. It's like, how about let's go to the blueprint
Yeah.
and let's see is there a crack in the foundation? Is there a little a joint somewhere that's not quite lined up, so to speak, as a metaphor, but and that's really what we're doing, and it does. It cuts the time, it cuts the cost. It just makes so much sense, even to people that do this for a living in the health field, practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it takes so much guesswork out of it, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
makes it much more affordable. Did you want me to share my screen? I can show
I
you.
would love that.
Okay, let's start with my code complex report, which should be this one here. Okay, so I'm gonna reduce that a little bit. So what we are seeing is my code complex report. So I'm gonna back up here real quick. We do, like I said, we address 10 areas of health, and I meant to bring up that graphic, but I can list them here really quickly. We address inflammatory response, detoxification, immune response, methylation, healthy gut and microbiome, heart health, healthy BMI, energy, and mood. And so we have a report. So when you do this test, you get 11 reports actually. 10 of them are one for each of those areas. And then you have the code complex, and I'll go back to those in a minute. But the code complex, like I said, we pull almost 100 genetic SNPs, but there's no way to formulate on all that. We can pull a lot of great information and make lifestyle recommendations, but we can't supplement for that many, because you'd be taking your supplement all day long, literally.
Right,
So
right.
what we did is we take the top 19 from that whole report, and we bring them into what's called the code complex. And that is what we formulate on. So your custom supplement is based on this. And I'm going to scroll down. There's a lot of information in here. It is easy to read. We've actually had physicians tell us that that's one of the things they love about it, because normally when they get a genetic report back, it's so complex, it takes them hours to read. They can
Right.
get through this in 30 minutes at the top. But I am going to go down to, so these are the genes that we're looking at in my complex. So a green, if there's a green over here in this column, it means I did not inherit a variant on that gene. If it's yellow, it means I got that variant from one of my parents. Don't know which one, doesn't matter. I got it from somebody. Red means I got it from both parents. And so you can see as you go down, I'm all over the board. But, and so what it does is it lists the gene that we're looking at and the RS number, because genes, there's hundreds of thousands of genes in our bodies. What its broad function is, and which of the reports you'll find more information about it, because it affects that area. So for the APOB, which is healthy lipids, which is i.e. cholesterol, that comes into our heart health report. And I did inherit that from one of my parents. The mitochondrial function on the ATP5C1, I'm not going to read all those numbers, the tongue twisters. This one is assists in cellular energy creation, and that is affecting our cognition and our energy. I did not inherit one of those. COMT, this one is one I try not to get too deeply into, because it's one that I'm the least familiar with, but it's very important. It makes a lot of sense, especially we've found with, sometimes it's like, okay, if you have siblings and you're growing up and you think, why did they always seem to be so emotional, or they, getting a spanking or something like was traumatic, and then the
Hmm.
other kids, not so much. That has a lot to do with this. The
Right.
COMT affects us in our perception of the world and how we respond to it. So when I say there is a gene for that, there really is a gene for that.
Right. Right.
So anyway, so we go down through all of my report. And some of these reds, most of my reds have to do with detoxing, which is why I'll talk about that report in a minute. And then it goes through every single gene and explains in more detail what that means. Also, and what its function is and what it means if you have a yellow or a red on it. We also
Hmm.
have a lot of hyperlinks. So this talks about maintaining, this one helps maintain a healthy LDL cholesterol. That's the bad stuff. If you
Hmm.
click on this, it will take you to an article, and all of our articles are from like the National Institute of Health, I just drew a blank. Cleveland Clinic. Thank you. Perfect.
Hmm.
These are from very well known and very well respected organizations, health organizations that do a lot of these studies.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, did I just close that? I did. Give me just a second. Okay. So anyway, it goes back to, are you seeing that still?
Yep.
Okay. So it goes through every single gene in here. So there's 19 of them. And then at the very end, and I will speed this up a bit, and I'm going to change my view because quickly it talks about, that's the COMT. I don't want to get into that. Okay. This one it talks about, so it gives a little bit more information on what it does, what it affects. And this is talking about the scientifically validated amounts of following ingredients. So all of our ingredients, it's not just we take a thing and say, oh, they say, well, hawthorn berry is good for you and magnesium and potassium, so we're just going to throw some of that in there. Everything we do, all of our ingredients, you'll see in just a moment, are to the microgram and milligram based on scientifically validated research.
That's amazing.
So then it tells you what's in there because of it. And then I'm going to skip down at the very end. Actually, I'll do a bigger view, but then it has what your custom formula is. And this is why I'm not going to show you that one. This is a little bit easier to read. So this is actually mine. This is my formula. It is not going to be like anybody else's. It's not like my sister's or my dad's or my mother's or anybody else's. So the FDA, we do work with the FDA. FDA does not regulate supplements. However, we do work with them because we are so different and they're very curious and very interested in what we're doing. So we want to make sure we're compliant too. They require that all vitamin and mineral information is up at the top, your calories, all that kind of stuff. We don't simply add these amounts of this stuff. This includes the amounts of ingredients that are found in the individual ingredients that we put into it. Does that make sense? Did I say
Yeah.
that weird? So we're not just taking vitamin C and throwing in 106 milligrams. This 106 milligrams includes all the vitamin C in your formula from all of the different nutrients.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's
that makes
that
sense.
part. Yeah. And here's where we get down into what makes us really different. So we have our proprietary base. So we have a base blend, and this is all, if you look at this, you can see it's very commonly known in the industry of healthy nutrients for the human body. So everybody's formula starts with this and the AC11 frankincense and astaxanthin blend. AC11 is a very unique ingredient. It's the only one that we know of that's ever been shown to help our body heal our DNA, because our body is able to heal itself to a degree which becomes less and less as we get older. This helps support that process.
Okay.
So then you saw I have an APOB blend because that was yellow in my report. And so these are the ingredients that are supporting that genetic function, my APOB.
Right. Right.
I get 500 milligrams based on the fact that I believe it was yellow. Yeah. Yep, it's yellow. So if I was red, there would be twice as much.
Right,
And
right.
then the next one that I have a genetic variant on is the CYP11B2. These are the ingredients that are in that, and this is how much. And this is based on, these amounts are based on 10 capsules. You take 10 capsules a day. And so this is, and usually we split them up
Right.
like half in the morning. I do mine with breakfast and dinner so I can remember, because I'm terrible about that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's become a habit. After breakfast I take them, and after dinner I take them. So I just
Yeah.
don't even have to think
Yeah.
about it. It's the habit
Yeah.
I've built. But anyway, so that's how this works, and this is throughout the day.
And I want to say too, just as like someone who has taken a lot of supplements in my life, I've also done a lot of research on the companies that I have ordered supplements from. And the fact that you are third party tested, the fact that your company is really conscientious about where they're sourcing their ingredients is super important, because as you mentioned, the FDA does not regulate supplements. And I think that that's part of the reason that supplements can sometimes get a bad rap, because there are a lot of fake supplements out there and very subpar supplements. You're not guaranteed to be getting what they say you're getting unless you are ordering from a company that is conscientious about where and how they're sourcing their ingredients from, and third party testing. So that, without those two pieces, I, wouldn't be interested. Right.
No,
Yeah.
and learning
Yeah.
that, I've become very, very particular, because
Mhm.
detoxing, I'll just show really quickly. This is my detox report. There's a lot of reds and yellows in here.
Mhm.
I have a lot of reds and yellows in here, and this really explains so much to me. But because of this, I get a lot of support from my supplement, but I also know that, so I do Uber driving part-time. So I'm
Mhm.
putting myself into a toxic environment. I'm out there with all the fumes and stuff, and I know that because I don't detox well, I could probably use a little extra on that. And so when I've been researching what's the best thing to supplement my detoxification specifically on top of my
Uh-huh.
supplement, I've become very, very knowledgeable and very, um, I question,
Yeah.
where are you from? Where is it coming
Yeah.
from? Who's doing this? Because what you'll also find, a lot of companies don't make their own stuff.
Yeah. They're just
They buy it
repackaging
from
it.
somebody else, and they call it white labeling.
Yeah.
So you can have a company that's making the same stuff for just about anybody who wants to pay to have their name put on the label.
Yeah. Exactly.
And yeah,
Exactly.
and so if it's white labeled, I don't touch it. I just
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah.
I mean, unless
Yeah.
I can tell, unless I can see, show me where it's coming from, show me who's
Yeah.
making it.
Yeah.
But if you
Exactly.
can't do that,
Exactly.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's super important. Yeah. So if someone decides to do the genetic testing, Sarah, do you kind of help them go through the results? What kind of support would they have in understanding?
yeah, I always do. I work with individuals and practitioners. But I'm available to all, even if it's a practitioner I'm working with, I am available to assist them, especially getting started, getting going, learning how
Mm-hmm.
to do a review. But yeah, when somebody orders a test, I will walk them through the process. I
Mm-hmm.
will, even if they need help setting up their account, which is not difficult, but you can't miss that waiver form, which is easy to miss. And if you miss it, they're going to call back and say, hey, you didn't give us permission to test your DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when they do get the reports back, generally I go through the code complex with them, which is the overall, that's the one we formulate on. I go through their formula. And then if they have like a specific area or two they want to go through, like for me, it's detox. And I was very curious about
Mm-hmm.
the healthy BMI, because I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that it was a genetic thing, that I
Mm-hmm.
would struggle with my weight all my life. And actually it's a
Mm-hmm.
detox thing, which I had
Right.
no idea could even be part of the problem.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm not genetically predisposed to store fat poorly.
Yeah.
I am genetically predisposed not to detox, which makes us hold on to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was
yeah.
like, when I
Yeah.
got that, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And I help, you know, there's little tips and tricks, people, you know, ways we help them remember to take the supplements, because that's a big one. That's probably
Yeah.
our number one complaint. I can't remember to take them.
Yeah.
Trust
And
me,
that's,
once you've been doing this for a few months and you feel so good, it becomes easier, but getting started, yeah. And there's tips and things we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm here to support people as they need it. If they have any questions come up.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing about like I work with women a lot in building habits. And the thing about habits is you just put a little bit of effort in on the forefront. And yes, there's tons of tricks. But once a habit is a habit, it's automatic and it's easy. And that's the beauty of putting in the work to build a habit, right? Whether it's taking a supplement or taking a walk every day, whichever it
Absolutely.
is.
Because
Yeah.
I was terrible. I was terrible before. I mean, I've always
Yeah.
been terrible at taking medicine. I was terrible at taking birth control.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just, but this has become such a habit.
Yeah.
And because I feel so much better. I honestly, people ask me if I feel different. So obviously there's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill. There's no instant gratification, because this is cellular. And for most of us as adults, we also are trying to reverse some of the stuff that we've been dealing with for so long. But,
Right.
and I just lost my train of thought.
It's all right.
Oh my God.
So,
But it's become such a habit for me now that if I go to bed, I mean, I will literally go, oh crap, I didn't take my supplement, and I get up
yeah.
and go take it.
Yeah.
Because it's become such a habit. So it's
Yeah.
harder for me to forget now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I will remember. It's like, oh man, I got to get out of bed again. Anyway.
So I'm going to drop all of your links, Sarah, in the chat. There is Sarah's website. She also has a private Facebook group you can join, her profile, and the last link is to schedule a call with her. If you are curious, want to learn more, have some personal questions to ask her. So as we should probably wrap up fairly soon, huh? We could chat for hours as always.
Yeah.
But let's touch on cost a little bit, because I know that people are going to be curious what this costs.
Okay, yeah, great. And then I do want to give a couple minutes for questions. I know Isaac's in
Mhm.
that, if anybody else does.
Yeah.
So the cost is $297 for the test kit. That pays for the DNA kit. It pays for the kit, for the test, for all the reports, and for the personalized your formula. So you get all of that. And then the monthly cost for the supplement, and I have to say, we do serve the US and Canada.
Mhm.
The cost for US is $149 even. There's no additional taxes or shipping. It's included. And that's per month. If it's going to Canada, it's going to be affected by the dollar exchange rate, and shipping is not free to the US, is not included. Or excuse me, Canada. So here in the US,
Mhm.
it's all inclusive, $149 a month.
Yeah.
On a
Which is, as I mentioned earlier, when I look at your formula, your specific formula, and I'm looking at everything that's in there, like I've bought so many supplements in my life. And as I said, I'm buying them from reputable companies that I know are good quality. If I were to cover all of those bases in separate supplements, it would be way more than $150 a month for a supplement.
Yes.
So yeah, that is just amazing. And most of you on this call, some of you don't know, I am in Mexico for the winter, and I met Sarah briefly before I left. And so I'm kind of anxiously awaiting to return to the US so I can send in and get my own test done and kind of clear out. I'm going to work on clearing out my supplements before I return to the US in spring, so that I can get on these right away and start having that easy monthly shipment. Yeah. Was there anything else that we did not cover that we intended to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You want to take some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Isaac, I know you said you had some questions.
Yeah. So is this is something you kind of touched on it. but this is something that could possibly help with some gut issues.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Gut
maybe
and
some sleeping
microbiome.
problems,
And some what?
some sleeping problems.
You know, it's interesting, but sleep is probably the one thing that it's the first thing people notice an improvement in when they start on their custom across
Okay.
the board. And people I've talked to that aren't even my customers, that aren't practitioner work, but it's just the number one thing. Gut health is huge. And yes, we actually have a report specific to gut health and microbiome. So yeah, it's definitely helped mine. My digestion, again, helping with the gut health was, like I said, sleep and digestion were the first two things I noticed, and most people do.
So this is one I definitely got to get the wife on.
Come on,
Yeah.
Britt.
Yeah. She's always tired. She's always got gut problems. I mean, just normal stuff. I function best at about 5 hours of sleep. So, but I feel like I could use more, but
Mhm.
I'm
I
ready to
don't
Look at
try this
you.
function
out.
well on 5 hours of sleep.
I'm not
What's
functioning
that?
well on 5 hours either.
I said I don't function well on 5 hours of sleep. It's not my thing, but
O- Over 6, I feel groggy. I feel like I've overslept.
and that's, guess what? Because genetically, that's how you're built to function
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about how long from when we send the test off? Is it about a month to start getting the supplements in?
It takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, just depends on how busy the lab is to get the
Okay.
lab results. And then that comes to us, and then it's usually another couple of weeks. So it
Okay.
takes 4 to 6 weeks from beginning to receiving your first supplement.
Okay. I feel like that's pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
In the grand scheme of things, considering how long genetic testing used to take.
right.
Yay, technology.
So I know when we were hiking, we kind of talked about that MTHFR
Mhm.
gene. If that is one I have and they supplemented for it, what type of things do you see out of that?
It's hard to say what taking one gene and seeing a specific result, because our genes, they like to play together. Like there's no
Okay.
one gene for gut, there's no one gene for detox. It's a combination of genes. And so
Okay.
there's really, I don't know. I'm not a geneticist. I'm not a trained geneticist expert, but I don't know that there's a way to say your MTHFR is functioning properly now because we see XYZ.
Okay.
So it's like, because MTHFR literally affects every system in our body,
Okay.
because that's how our cell uses the energy, how it absorbs it, how it utilizes it, and doing so well. And so literally it affects every function.
Okay. Well, that's all I got.
Okay. Good to see you.
You bet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, gut health is something that so many more people struggle with at this point. And we've learned so much over the last handful of years and how much gut health affects absolutely all of our health. I think that a question that came up as, oops, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just lost my earbuds just died on me. There we go. We're switching microphones. So one question that comes up for me, gut health is a super common problem that people deal with, as well as autoimmune disorders. So autoimmune weaknesses. I'm just curious if you have much experience in people who have gone on the personalized supplementation, and what kind of improvements they might have with
Yes.
symptoms of
Yes.
autoimmune disease.
So thyroidism, which is considered an autoimmune disease, our CEO actually suffers from, she was misdiagnosed with Hashimoto's for 10 years. It's kind of why when she discovered nutrigenomics and got relief, why she started saying, hey, we need to we need to do something about this here. My sister also has a thyroid disease, and she was able, when she started her supplement, she was able to cut her medication back by at least half. I'm trying to remember what she went back, because that was 5 years ago, so I don't really remember the exact amount, but I know it was at least half. She was able to get back on her thyroid medication.
Yeah.
Another thing that I just recently discovered with myself, I was kind of surprised, but I started losing my hair back in my 20s, my late 20s. And I was doing my hair one day and I lifted my hair up to curl it, and I'm like, I can see the back of my scalp. I mean, I could see through my hair, and I'm like, what the? I was 28 years old, for crying out loud. It's like, this is not cool, especially being a girl.
Yeah.
When I started taking my supplement, that was one of the other things that got better, is like my hair started growing back in. My hairdresser was just like blown away. And I just thought, okay, well, that's a really cool side effect. That works for me. I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was losing it. And come to find out, just about 2 or 3 months ago, I went for my annual checkup to the dermatologist. I had to have some spots removed. And I said, by the way, I've got this hair follicle like right here in the front of my forehead. And I had her look at that in another spot, and I'm like, it keeps getting red and it doesn't do anything. It just gets red and then it goes away. And she looks and she goes, and she gets her little special magnifying thing out. And she says, have I ever talked to you about your hair? I said, no. And she says, you have frontal fibrosing alopecia, which it can be very common in women who are postmenopausal. But like I said, mine started when I was in my 20s.
Right.
And what happens is that literally your hairline just marches. It just keeps, it's a perfectly straight line.
Yeah.
And it literally kills off. Well, the fact that I can't regrow hair, which is why I always wondered why it's getting thicker again up top, but it's not growing back down. Although my temples did grow back in quite a bit. Once that's gone, it's gone. But the fact that my hair grew back in on top and my temples grew back in, I'm like, okay, I can deal with having a higher forehead. I'm okay with that. But that is an autoimmune disease. And so, yeah, there's all kinds that we've had people with skin conditions that saw improvement. Like I said, the thyroidism is a very common one that people generally, like I said, we don't test for a specific disease. We're just looking at the genes that support our health. How are they programmed? Are they programmed right to work right? Or is there a glitch in their programming?
Right.
And if there's a glitch, what can we do nutritionally to help support that to function right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think my mind just went to, autoimmune disease, thyroid, those kinds of things, because those are the things that are so often misdiagnosed, or just have all those really random questionable symptoms. Like, why am I not sleeping well? Why am I having hair loss? Why do my joints ache so much every day? Why it's kind of all of those mystery symptoms that I could imagine would be so beneficial for people to be getting the specific nutrition that their body needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah.
So like I said, I can't speak to any specific disease, even my own, which with the adhesions disease, or disorder, or whatever you want to call it, I didn't realize that, because nobody ever told me. I was dealing with this for many years, and it has a lot to do with inflammation as well. Which is something I've dealt with, which is also is an underlying cause of so many things, as you know, including autoimmune disorders. And inflammation is a specific area that we address. For that reason.
And so, okay, let's use inflammation as an example. Like, say you, through the report, find out that those genes are not the strongest for you. Then beyond the specific formula of supplement made for you, you can also be like, okay, I know that I need to focus on keeping inflammation down in my body a little bit more than most normal people. So, like, I could think of a bunch of different diet recommendations to make, specifically if your body doesn't, you know, detox well, or tends to be prone to inflammation, or, you know, if those heart genes are not the strongest, then, you know, like cardio would be a great thing to focus on, right? So it can
Yes.
also really help to guide so many other lifestyle choices in food and movement as well, correct?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to share this, because the 10 individual health area reports, this is my detoxification one, because it's the one I go to because it's my worst, and it explains so much of the things I've dealt with in my life. We do include, I mean, you have your genes, and it may include genes that are beyond your code complex, because like I said, we have that full report that has almost 100 genes.
Mhm.
So there are going to be potentially additional genes in these reports that aren't necessarily part of the formula, but they're part of the information you need for your own health and for your own, you know, your own knowledge.
Right.
And you can see there's a whole lot more information in these. Like this is the MTRR gene. This is just one. And so it gives a lot, the individual reports give a lot more information. They also talk about an overview. So the MTR impacts my cellular function and genetic expression, healthy cellular reproduction, my hormones, brain and mood.
Mhm.
And then it talks about these are the ingredients that would be in my formula to help support my detoxification. And then we include evidence-based lifestyle tips. Against evidence-based, these are studied, these are proven that these help. Staying hydrated is really critical for detoxification.
Yeah.
Exercise and movement gives some ideas. Brushing your skin. That sounds really weird, but and I actually do it in the shower because I can't do this the dry brush thing,
Mhm.
but I do it in the shower before I get all completely lathered up.
Yeah.
But it gives different types of exercise, you know, why exercise and movement help, some suggestions on those. And again, these are all hyperlinks. So this is there's so much more information
Right.
on
Right.
lifestyle tips.
Yeah.
And again, they are evidence-based.
Yeah.
Mindfulness techniques. And then because some of the reports include this, so these are labs that we can request with our provider to help keep an eye on like for me, this is my detox. So, you know, having my heavy metals tested would be really good.
Right.
Tox profiles, mold metabolites, my indoor air quality in my home even. So because like I said, we address the foundation.
Mhm.
We understand there is no, like I said, there's no magic bullet. There's no one thing that's going to make you perfectly healthy. I really wish there was. I'm ready for the Star Trek, the tricorder and the whole thing. You can just scan yourself and it says what's wrong and it fixes it. And it's like, cool.
Yeah.
But we aren't there, obviously.
No, no.
So there's a lot of, so I believe in this 100%. I have been doing it for 5 years, almost 5 years now. That doesn't mean I don't have to do anything else. And one of those things that I do, like I said earlier, is because my detoxification is such an issue, I go another step.
Yeah.
And so I do take another, it's a tincture actually to help my body detox, because that's something it really struggles with.
This
But yeah,
is this part is really awesome to me. This is something I missed when I was looking through your things previously, is like having labs that you should consider requesting from your provider, because let's face, like, we need to be advocates with our medical professionals. We need to be our own self advocates with our medical professionals. They're not always knowing what to look for, or, you know, so having those specific things to request really amazing. And also just knowing, you know, I mean, we do not have infinite energy and time in life, right? Like, to have the ability to focus your time, your money, your energy on the specific areas of your health that most need to be supported is really amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do want to touch on really quickly, two questions that I get asked a lot is how many times you have to do the test. And I don't, and it's $297. You don't have to do it again. It's a one-time deal.
Right.
It's just one, because we're looking at your DNA, and your DNA is not, it's not changing from day to day.
Yeah.
And the other thing is will I do blood tests? blood tests have, like I said, I'm not anti-medicine, and blood tests definitely have a place, but blood tests can change from minute to minute, literally.
Yeah.
So you can eat a really carb heavy meal and have your triglycerides shoot through the roof.
Yeah.
But if you had tested right before that or the day after, you're going to get a whole different reading.
Right. Yeah.
Unless that's a normal part of your diet, is to eat a lot of that stuff. But my point is they can change. So it does. These are very good supportive. And with the heavy metals, that kind of thing, it can show if there's a buildup of heavy metals in your system.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean,
And then you know how to support yourself in that, because there's very specific protocols to help detoxify from heavy metals, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I do. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is so exciting. This is one of the few reasons I'm excited to return from Mexico in the spring.
We're gonna have to figure out a system for you. We do.
Yeah, well, eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I know. We do have people all over the world that use our product.
Yeah.
They usually have their own systems of getting stuff from the US to them in other countries. We do not ship. At this point, Europe is on the horizon, but at this point, we do not ship direct to anyone outside the US or Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hence the mules.
We'll figure it out for sure. I have family coming to visit me too. It's just a matter of
Yeah, exactly.
having people hustle things across the border for you when deliveries are not reliable here, especially in my teeny tiny little town.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
thank you so much.
Thanks for having on. Every time I talk to you, I get more, like, my mind just reels with how supportive this could be, and how, just having this information for my own health and for the clients that I work with, for the women that I work with, being able to suggest really specific things based on the science. I get more excited every time I talk to you. I really do. My mind just zooms with ideas.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's why I never get tired of talking about it, because it's the future. Oh, and I did want to say, sometimes, again, with the medicine thing, people need to understand doctors are not nutritional information and genetic information. That is not part of a typical medical education. And it's not that they don't care. It's not that they are, less than. It just isn't part of the typical medical education. It's starting to be added, but it's a slow process. So that's why it's even more important that we are proactive, that we understand where our body's at. And like you said, those suggested labs and stuff, it's like, we can help them help us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it gives us
accountability.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for your time, and for those of you that showed up with us. I will take the recording and post this in my Easeful Eating group. And I'll just create a link, Sarah. So if you want to share it in your group as well, actually, this is great. You can just share it wherever we want. And then I'll post your links and stuff in my Easeful Eating group as well. If any of you want to copy and paste the links I posted in the chat before we leave, or feel free to just reach out to me. I can send them to you as well.
Yeah. And definitely, if you're here through, because of your relationship with Shelly, please reach out to her directly, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. I do. Thank you. Take care.
Isaac and ladies, thanks for being here. Have a good rest of your Sunday, everybody.